Hi, host Eric here. We're talking with famous people. We're talking topics, we're talking, and we're talking about topics. So, host Taylor
It
just
takes me
mentioned
time to think.
host Taylor just mentioned that he has topics coming to him all day. He doesn't make note of them, write them down. When it comes time to think of them, like now, they're gone. Unify mentioned he has to sit there and sort of peruse about it for a while before a topic settles upon him as the one to present as a topic. So,
Mm.
for
And
me,
even if something is thrown out, I might just I won't say nothing because I won't really have shit to say. But then after the conversation is over, I go, "Oh shit, it's a lot in there that I could get out right now." But I just don't say it at the time because I haven't thought about it.
well, 'cause you don't have it worked
Normalcy
out yet.
bias.
Uh,
Like nah,
okay, well, let's talk about topic versus energy because for me, a topic could be literally just about anything is fine. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. It would be great if somebody else is interested in a specific topic and like asks a question or presents a topic as something they actually want to know about. Fabulous. Or at least they actually want to hear their question talked about for whatever reason their motivation is. Fabulous because in that case, it brings a little additional energy than whatever I might bring to the question. So, I mean, I think these videos are comprised both of information and energy, and the energy in the room comes through on the video. Additionally, my energy or the energy of the person talking or presenting influences the energy of both the room and the video in a complex web of ways. That means that the topic itself to me often seems kind of irrelevant, as is the case now,
I
which
have a
segues
topic.
into lots of different stuff.
I have a topic.
Okay, Abraham.
Um, should churches find churches as like temples, mosques, whatever, however like synagogues, etc. Um, remain tax exempt?
I knew
No.
we shouldn't have let him talk.
No, the answer is no. Of course not. I mean, what actually the answer is yes, and we should make everybody else tax exempt too.
What the fuck? Why?
Because we get plenty of taxes from sales tax. We don't need any more taxes than that. Sales tax, maybe some
Then
property tax. A little bit, not
if we
much.
stopped our foreign aid, we would need much less tax. Mm, okay. Well, then
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't that money be used for education or infrastructure?
No, I mean yes, but not to a good end. You can't pump. Some of the best school infrastructures I've ever seen are in the shittiest schools. You can't pump giving a fucks in with dollars. I don't.
Well, I'm talking about two separate things. I'm talking about the education system, and I'm talking about our current infrastructure, like the status of the infrastructure, by which we're graded to be a letter of D of how bad our infrastructure is, and in
Uh,
general, it could be like public infrastructure, like
and
buildings, railroads.
if you look at public projects efficiency per dollar versus private projects, you can see. I mean, don't you live in Detroit or something?
No, I
Who lives
live
in
where
Detroit?
Eric lives.
He lives near me.
I mean, you can look at how inefficient government mandated projects are. They're not they're not designed to be efficient enough to self sustain. Basically,
I agree with you. So wouldn't that tax money be able to use to fix that issue in one way or another?
in theory, but in practice, it doesn't really work that way because people running it, first of all, don't have any great incentive to maximize the utility of it. Second of all, there's a redistribution cost of approximately a third of every tax dollar. Every tax dollar, about a third of it goes to figuring out where to put that tax dollar.
But more
And then,
importantly than that, Abraham, also Remember, they have shitloads of taxes. Their first number one job, the reason they get taxes at all in the first place, is infrastructure. The fact that they waste shitloads of tax dollars on things that aren't infrastructure before they deal with their actual job, infrastructure, is the problem. It's not,
Can
oh
I,
boy, more tax money to waste on something. It's, you know what, we gave you $10 billion and you wasted 9 billion of it and spent 1 billion. From now on, we need to give you just 1 billion. Except, it's trillion with the federal government probably, or they get like $3 trillion a year in taxes or something. It's ridiculous.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on churches that have been caught with incidents, religious institution-based frauds involving the uh, like abuse of money, like money laundering, from an institution that was set out to provide like quote unquote benefits to a community?
Well, it's a
Like,
crime then.
what about it?
It's a fraud, a crime.
uh,
What about it?
because that probably more than likely happens more than we actually think it does. Why wouldn't that be an incentive to remove the tax exemption from actual churches?
The fact that something can be corrupted doesn't make the thing bad in and of itself.
True.
So that's not a valid reason. Although, from an argument standpoint or from a statement standpoint, although boots on the ground, that certainly is a factor. Um, I mean, I guess I don't know why churches are tax exempt to begin with, other than that it makes people feel warm and fuzzy.
I think that the reason why people don't tax, or why the government doesn't tax it, a lot of people would argue, and I'm not sure about this argument, by the way. I don't know on the basis in which it stands, but I think a lot of people would assume and argue that it is an infringement against the First Amendment because you're taxing someone's ability to to practice their religion.
I agree with that argument, Abraham. I think there's probably justification for it. How strong it
But
is another question, but I think it's a good argument to make.
I also think though, like I read like for example, and there's a Supreme. It was a Walsh versus Tax Commission of the city of New York, and the ability where the Supreme Court ruled basically that the ability to tax religious institutions did not infringe against the Constitution in the sense that it held that grants of tax exemptions to like religious organizations did not violate the establishment clause of, I think it's the establishment clause, right, of the First Amendment.
Oh, that's such a good argument. That's so great. That if
I
in
think
fact we can carve out the exception, then we can make laws about it so it doesn't violate the shall pass no laws thing to carve out exceptions, then it must not violate the shall pass no laws thing to carve out taxes. Brilliant. Love it. Taylor, what were you going to say? Sorry to cut you off.
I don't remember. Oh, I think that if someone's getting their livelihood off of it, if it's a career for someone, then it changes dynamics. Then
I think that in a sense it's a flip side, right? Like we talked about corruption, but I also think that um, it's important to understand that churches are often religious institutions are often institutions that give back to their communities, right? Like I know, like in the past when my family was struggling, we'd go to churches and they'd give us like baskets with like fruits, right, and like food and all this stuff, right? So that being like a minor example, um, like I'm pretty sure like on a large scale, churches are something that represent a sort of resource that people who need assistance, whether it be spiritually or like economically, or just
well,
in
we're dealing with
necessity
an
general.
economic plane. Taxes is an economic plane, so it needs to be an economic reason. It seems to
Okay,
me.
so when is it that, okay, this is gonna sound really dumb, but I don't know much about taxes and crap. Okay, so my question is, how do we define something that's able to be taxed? Something that's being sold